This
Let's try again.
conference will now be recorded.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa English, and I'm sitting here with Eric Hughes as well as also with Michael Mike. We wanted to take a moment today to share a little bit of information about our upcoming production. We are going to be taping a movie that will be called Cold in December. And basically, we just wanted to share a little bit of information about what to expect when it's coming up and all of those other upcoming pieces. We're getting a lot of bad feedback from somebody.
I'm gonna mute mine just in case it mine.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Eric, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. You had the idea for Cold quite a long time ago. If you could tell us, first of all, where the idea came from. If you would
Um,
also please tell us, how you wrote it.
well, the idea came from being a police officer for 26 years. We all, as officers, see all kinds of abuse. It's a very ugly world. When people have to um, become victims of some type of abuse. This particular abuse is sexually. That comes from, it could be the father, it can be an uncle, it could be an older brother or whatever. And I have in the past had to deal with situations such as that. More of the physical abuse is more seen than what the sexual abuse that some of these girls and boys have to endure. So I just thought it would be some type of like a an awareness of what really goes on a daily basis, if you will. Um, but there's also um, healing after you become a victim. A lot of people stay bitter, they stay mad about the situation, but there's always healing, but it's healing for yourself. And it's not for, the forgiveness of the other person or anything for them. The healing is for the victim itself.
Perfect. And, just a quick question. How often did you, as a police officer, encounter that kind of situation? Was it something that was, rather frequent, or was it something that was only, every once in a while?
Well, most of your victims, if you will, most of them don't tell anybody. So, but whenever somebody finally does break the silence, well, then, we have to respond to it accordingly. Also in my career, I also actually caught a rape while it was actually happening. And
Wow.
I chased that idiot for probably 4 hours that night. We finally caught him, and he got 30 something years in prison. And I
Wow,
mean, I
that's great.
actually walked up on while it was happening.
That's quite a success story. Being able to say that you were a part of putting him away, that's pretty impressive. And I
And
can
that's a
understand how.
very rare thing to actually walk up on something like that while it's actually taking place. It's very
I can
rare.
only I can only imagine, and I'm sure that you felt really good when justice had finally been served as
I
well.
was just I was just glad to catch the guy because it was a 40-year-old woman that had the mind of a 12-year-old.
Oh gosh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
And Mike, I'm going to pivot to you for a second. Mike, you've been making movies for a very long time, but aside from making movies for a very long time, you've also been a very creative mediator with quite a bit of experience as well. If you would tell us a little bit about your experience in mediation and then how you got into the film industry.
Oh, absolutely. I started out in mediation with my father's advocate program, and with that, uh, dispute resolution was always in my mind a better alternative than litigation. So what I did was I went back to school, got my education and my certification in mediation and arbitration, and from there I created a child support, divorce, and CPS mediation program that allowed me to talk to both sides, both the mother and the father, and sometimes the grandparents when there was disputes or situation with the parents related to the children. And with that, that allowed me to at least share the educational and then the litigation side of the matters, which typically most of them was, oblivious to because they only knew one side, and that was just financial. And then from there, I did it for 10 years as an expert, 20 years total. I converted a training portal to train fathers in all 50 states that eventually turned into a television network there where I was able to put content on a global platform, showcase content that everybody want to see, but drop in pro bones commercials and training content as commercials or trailers while I have a captain audience, and that turned out to be very successful.
Wow, yeah, that's really something. And, as I'm listening to this, gentlemen, it sounds like you've both encountered, kind of both sides of the situation. Obviously, Eric, you've been there, as a police officer to help and support the victims. And I know also, Mike, you've also seen people who have probably, been accused of this situation. You've probably also seen the effects that it also has on families in the long term as well. Did you both kind of want to share at a super high level how your prior professions led you to the film industry? Because I know, Mike, yours was kind of a little bit more of an indirect path than, well, actually a more direct path. Let me change that, than Eric's, because you actually created yours as a tool, and then that's what brought you into the film industry. But I'd like to talk to each one of you and get your perspective on how your real life experience brought you into film, and then ultimately to ask you a little bit more about, kind of what your goals are from the films that you make, in terms of your past history and experience and kind of where you see yourself going in your career. And then we'll actually talk about Cold a little bit more. So let's go ahead and pivot back to Eric. And Eric, why don't you tell us, kind of all of that really briefly? Sorry, that was like a
All of
six-point
that.
question. And then Mike, let's pivot back to you, and I'd like to get your information on both of those before we kind of move forward to talking about Cold itself.
I guess mine, with my past profession, I really wanted to bring awareness to people about the things that really go on in this world, and that there's always a way that you can heal from some of the hurt that there's avenues that you can take, to change your life. Really, I want my films to reach people on a positive level, that they can break free of any of the hurts and the pains that they have from what has taken place in the past. Like another project that we have coming, Born to be Wasted, that is more awareness film for domestic violence, where Cold is more about an abused girl and how she runs from the past, and eventually she's going to have to make some choices to either remain bitter or to actually find an avenue for healing. Same thing with the Born to be Wasted, a little different. It's the awareness is how the effects of domestic violence affects individuals regardless of the same family that they're in. So the sister, it could affect her differently, the mother differently, the brother differently. It just affects each individual so different that, it's traumatizing. I mean, I've seen a lot of victims, especially in law enforcement, as far as the domestic violence. And, to me, it's insane, really. I mean, it's just horrible. But I would like for, as this goes forward, for people just, when they see my logo and our attachments, that they know that it's going to be something positive for them. Not for me, but for them. It's all about the people.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And Mike, did you want to go ahead and also share essentially, what you are hoping for your work, as well as also how your work led you into this? I mean, it was a little bit more directly because you were directly developing the content that would help people, but please give us a little bit of your insight about what you've seen as well from the other side of the fence.
As heinous as assault, something as heinous as accusing a person just to get what I call a leg up in a situation, not thinking they're about to destroy this person's life. So
Exactly.
when I started doing filming, it was very interesting that some of the cases that I filmed in the past, it gave me an opportunity to do TV shows, and these people were able to come online and share what I call the unedited version of their lives. And back then, it was just basically called, Mike the Mediator Show. And from there, I never made the short films, but I kept it like a 1 hour TV series. And what I loved about it was something they can go back and watch. But as Eric said, the healing was that they actually got it off their chest. They told someone, and then someone was able to help them overcome, the issue that they was having. Because what a lot of people fail to realize, even if a person is falsely accused, just to be accused in the system that you was accused typically takes years to get that out of your record.
Hmm.
Years.
Yeah.
And then for that reason, now here's this parent who's accustomed to providing for his or her children cannot do that no longer, all because of something else. And then unfortunately, that triggers domestic violence because now you have destroyed my life. I'm going. So one is a trickle effect, and it's very interesting. We did a short film similar to that by a lady that is in Texas who did Enough is Enough, and it showed how you know the guy got so fed up with the mom making all these accusations that he actually drove through 4 states and killed the entire family.
Ooh.
So those powerful messages that we see there in TV shows, more times than not, are real life scenarios that, like Eric had to encounter, and like myself, I had to encounter in one platform or another, whether it be as a police officer, as an arbitrator, mediator, or as an advocate in the courtroom. So I think that the movies and the things that we're making truly would hit home because it's thousands of people who have experienced such catastrophic situations, but yet they have no clue how to start the healing. That I think with the movies that Eric and myself are going to be doing, at least start the healing for some people.
Right.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really important point. I feel like, people don't have resources and don't know where to go for resources when they find themselves in that kind of a situation.
That's
And
exactly
so,
right.
yeah, whether it's a woman who is, in a abusive relationship or it's a man who's been falsely accused, these kinds of things have life consequences. They have, long-term issues that can affect someone's ability, as you said, to provide for their family. They also have other situations. And so, the thing is that you can direct someone to a 1-800 number, but at the same time, that's not somebody in the trenches with you, providing you with real life, advice and things like that. So,
Hmm.
I guess my question would be, gentlemen, in terms, and after this, we'll talk about cold because we've kind of addressed the issue. What would you say would be the best source of being able to find help for someone immediately if they are encountering something like this, regardless of what their situation is? What would you suggest, Eric, as a former police officer, and then also Mike as a former mediator? Well, current mediator, not former.
They up here in North Georgia, they have a program called NOAA. It's NOA. No one. See what I think it's. I don't forgot what it stood for now. In other words, basically, they're going to be with you the whole step of the way. Whether you've been abused, you're trying to get away from somebody, whatever the case, you're not going to be alone. And it's a protective shelter that's unknown to anybody. So once a victim comes in and it's determined that they're a victim, they need to be gotten away, out of the situation or away from the person, then we would transport them to this unknown location in the mountains that they were basically protected until the whole process is, through, you know. Um, that's one option. Another option is you need to have somebody that you can really talk to about this, what's going on. And don't forget your pastor, because a pastor can give you spiritual guidance to help your to help your spirit and your soul. So don't forget your pastor for, and that's what I would recommend for now. But there are some places that I have seen that, like you was talking about earlier, the resources are virtually non-existent in some areas, so they've got to get out and find somebody that they can talk to that will, give them the advice, kind of like, what Michael did for a living. He would always help the people through the court process and stuff like that. So you've got to find somebody that's going to help you, but you got to be able to talk. You got to talk.
Absolutely. The one thing I like about it, uh, the opportunity as being a mediator allows me to talk to both sides. So as an attorney, that attorney can only talk to his or her client. As a mediator and arbitrator, I have the privilege to talk to both sides. And unfortunately, when these false accusations are filed, in more cases than not, they are filed against the father due to the simple fact of retaliation or revenge or emotions. And now these guys are labeled with heinous crimes that even behind jail would get them killed. So
Mm-hmm.
what I advise guys to do if they find themselves in that situation is, first and foremost, do not run from it. Second,
Right.
do not respond emotionally. Face it head on. Because once you are vindicated of being innocent, then there are different programs that will remove it out of the system. You merely have to ask. And then from there are advocate programs that also gives you the resources here in Texas, in about 23 other states through the Father Rights organization that allows you day by day to heal from such a catastrophic situation, because you can go out and commit a murder and within 10 years you can get it clean. But if you commit a crime against a child or an elderly person or a female, typically those crimes are life lasting. Here in Texas, if you're convicted of a domestic violence against the mother of your child or a family member, it is a life uh, mark. You can never get it removed. Even if they were to lie, it is on your record permanently. So
Even expungements,
imagine that. Now you can't,
there,
not even with expungement, not with uh,
wow,
non-disclosure, not even with a court seal. The Texas legislator passed a law that if you are accused and the court deemed not to, they will not remove it because they
wow,
feel you're a high risk to be a repeat offender. Now imagine a bitter person knowing that as an option to hurt someone just out of randomly making it up. How many hundreds of cases now? And that alone is enough for some men to lose it.
Right.
Hence, so with that, you think about now all of a sudden, this person has nothing to lose because they're scarred for life. Now you got the domestic violence, now you got the aggravated assaults, and in some cases, you even have, death or murder, all because of an emotional situation. And then Eric, like you mentioned earlier, not mention those who are legitimately, you know, uh, evil people that do the rape, that do the assault. So, unfortunately, our society are in a situation where sexual assault and rape is sometimes a tool and sometimes an addiction. And
Mhm.
wow.
unfortunately, our elderly, our women, and our children are the recipients.
And it goes on every day. I mean, minute by minute, it's happening somewhere in this world. Somebody is
Yep,
being victimized sexually somehow, you know?
yep. And the
Wow.
sad part about it, most, and Eric, correct me, I think it's a high 60 to 70% percentile cases or family members or someone they
Yes.
know.
Yes, it's usually a family member or somebody close to the family, like say the dad's best friend or something like that, But yes, you're right.
Like, 'cause there was a
Wow.
case here in Dallas about little over a week ago, a 34-year-old man sexually assaulted a 4-year-old girl and she died
Oh
from
my
his
God.
actions. You know, now granted, he will get a life sentence, but think about, that family because of a friend came over, blah, blah, blah. And like Eric said, those situations, we only know about the ones that make the news. You know,
Right.
what about the ones that are never spoken out? What about
Exactly.
the teenager that happened on the way, on holidays or when he on summer break or whatever? And unfortunately, what about the ones that happen against boys that are too embarrassed to even tell their family members?
Mm.
So,
Oh
Wow.
yeah,
un-
definitely.
yeah, unfortunately, our profession, Eric's as a 26-year officer, me as a 10-year expert, we get these things across our table that it's not fun, but at least we are there that we can at least give out a little bit to help these people heal, at
Hmm.
least have some direction to start moving forward again.
Right.
And I think you brought up a really good point, Mike, when you said, we don't even know about half of these cases that don't make the news or things that you're not even personally assigned to. I mean, that's really mind-boggling when you think about the fact, what the actual numbers must be. And I know, different states have different approaches to all of that, but it's when you mentioned, Texas and you mentioned what the structure is, it's actually very easy to see how someone would be willing after they've had their life destroyed like that to essentially, go for, whatever it was to alleviate the problem. So I understand that's really, really frightening. So gentlemen, let's, swap topics really quickly and let's talk about cold. So we're going to be filming in Metro Atlanta with Cold at the very beginning of December. And we are going to see Cold coming out then probably in about 60 to 90 days following the filming. So, let's talk a little bit about, some of the characters, Eric, and let's talk about, one of the things that you're most excited about in terms of seeing the production done, because I know it's been a long time coming. And then Mike, let's pivot over to you and let's get some more information about, your techniques and things like that you're planning on utilizing for the film, if that would be okay.
Um, as far as the whole thing, I'm just super excited just to get it started. Um, I had a short film that I had written and was having it filmed, but as soon as it was done, the production broke down, the editor peeled out. I lost quite a good chunk of change of money that never was returned and missing footage. So that was just completely devastating to me. And I swore after that experience, I'm not going through that again. Never. I will not. That's not going to happen to me again. So just being able to get these couple of projects that we have talked about getting them done, that's it's like a dream. Um, Somebody asked me one time, said, "Well, how did you get involved in doing that stuff?" Well, and I told them very plainly, I said, all of my life goals are complete. There is nothing left undone at all. So I figured, well, if there's nothing else I need to work towards, well, we just do something that may be just a little out there. So I took up acting, started taking acting classes, getting roles, getting gigs. Then it was like, well, I'm gonna try my hand at writing. So I started doing that. And fortunately for me, the pieces fell exactly the way they were supposed to. So once you see the project or the film after it's completed, um, you'll see the exact thing that I saw. I just thought it was just really good, very positive, and that's the biggest thing is like we've talked before is the positivity. Um, some of the characters I really like. Basically, you have the messenger of God, which is Michael. Then you've got Marcus, which is a very sadistic demon that is after the victim. Um, she is a very good actress that plays that lead. Her name is Heather Daner. We've done things together before, so I knew what type of talent that she had. She was also in the series Fortune that took place not too long ago. She was Big Sal's wife. That was So she's got some good talent. Uh, Joey Thurman, which is cast as Michael. The first time I ever saw him, I knew I wanted him in my films. He's really super good. So the way that I casted them was basically knowing what they have done in the past and knowing what type of talent level that they're going to bring. So it was really a no-brainer as far as the ones that I selected. Um, and then there was quite a few that was not selected for certain roles because they couldn't follow instructions. Biggest thing is I don't want a selfie. If you're going to send me a headshot, you send me something professional. You know what I'm saying? A good professional headshot, a resume, a reel. If you don't have a reel, sorry, I've got to see the reel. But biggest thing is all the directions, all of the instructions. That gets you a long way. So
Yeah, particularly on a film set where, your time is limited, being able to follow instructions is really important. And it's a great way to weed out all of the people who can't follow
mhm.
instruction if they can't even get the requirements right to submit for the part. So,
And then there was another time that when I was doing the short film, we had to redo some scenes, and I told the people that were involved in it, I said, look, you need to make sure that you keep this day open because there may be a possibility we may have to do some retakes or whatever the case is. And there was some of them said, well, I just can't make it. I had prior obligations, and it's like, I'll never use you again. And I won't use that. I'm not going to definitely not say any names, but yeah, it's a good way to kill a career quick.
I was muted. And so, Mike, can you fill us in a little bit about, what makes your production mechanism as well as your filming and directing so different? I know you guys have worked together, for many, many projects and, even done Fortune together. And I know you have a lot of techniques that, in the industry, a lot of people go, that's not possible. What would you say makes your work so different from most other people's?
I think one of the key thing is when you have life experiences, when you have life knowledge, you see things differently. So when you've been in a courtroom and you know what the emotions should be like, the facial expression should be like, the transitioning from one person speaking to another, then from there, when you can capture those transitions in real time on film, know when to get the close up, when to get the eyes, when to get the shivering of the lips, the body language. And I think with that, we also have a technique we call instant edit that we use multiple camera views that we can switch instantly to catch a person and then be able to in post to get that same thing in transition flawlessly versus having to do hours and hours of edit. Now the director and the assistant director can see those angles in real time and instantly either do a retake or to add to it. So what I like about it, as we was talking previously, with Eric and myself, life experiences, we see what looks real versus just Hollywood, what I'm calling it. So in the filming industry, I love making sure those angles, those shots, those transitions are spot on. And then with that, with the coloring, the audio, and things of that nature, I think you can get a perfect scene. So even if there's no words, a picture will speak 1,000 words.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Excellent. Well,
So
gentlemen,
yes,
I'm sorry, go ahead. My
and I
apologies.
said so. For that reason alone, I'm super excited to be working with Eric again because when we did do Fortune, Eric and I both can agree it was fun, it was exciting, it was a
Oh
lot of
yes.
impromptu, and what most people don't know is season two we're going to start the making on it after the first of the year.
Oh, that's
Hey, I'm
exciting.
in.
Yeah,
I'm in.
yep. You're in, definitely you're in. And I have not made it public anywhere. Regina and I made
Right.
it official. We have not made it public. We won't make it public till after the first of the year. So you got to sneak peek the first to know situation, and then we're going to be casting. And then after that is going to be a multi-series uh, Right now we send 5, but we could go up to 10 series that we're going to start doing. So we're super
Wow.
excited about that. Plus, in 2021, and you're going to be in this one too, Eric. Uh, the horror movie that's called Leroy.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So it's it's official. We got all the paperwork back. It's official. Everything is confirmed. Now we just kind of putting everything together.
Am I going to be the axe
Perfect.
carrier? Yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell you your role yet because then you have to. No, I'm just joking. The great thing about it is the original writing of Leroy was good, but now that we have kind of changed direction, it's going to be even more epic because not only is it going to be a horror movie, but it's going to be a horror movie with a theme.
Wow.
Nice.
you
Yes.
know and that way the sequels is going to be right now the conversation is making 5 sequels, almost like a mini series that comes out every year during Halloween.
Oh,
Nice.
that is cool. I
Yeah,
like that.
so it's going to be interesting.
It sounds like it. So I have to ask two questions of you, Mike, and then I'm going to pivot back to Eric. So, Mike, what I have to ask you is where are you going to be shooting Fortune season two, and where can people find season one right now if they want to check it out?
uh Season 2 will be filmed in Atlanta, Metro Atlanta, um,
Awesome.
because that's what all the great talent is that was part of it.
Of course.
Only people not from Atlanta is the director and producer. It was cheaper to bring us two there and to bring a 30 cast member to Texas or California. So
Right.
Fortune season 2 will be in Atlanta. Season 1, unfortunately, and fortunately, is on a network on Roku. I don't have all the details, but I think if you were to Google it on Roku, you'll find it. It was the existing director um, who has the content that is yet transitioned back over to the original owners of it. But who knows? By the time season 2 is out, all of that could be behind us, and we have it on the same platform. Um, can't say too much more about it until everything is final, but definitely, if you go to Roku and put in Fortune, I believe you'll find most of the episodes are there.
Excellent.
Yeah. I've actually
I'll post that.
seen most of them, most of the episodes. There was two I think that I did not see. I saw it on Norbert Brown Jr. TV. Um, but I started having experiencing a lot of difficulty through that particular site, so I've just canceled the whole thing. But
Right.
I mean, by
I think
watching what was filmed, it was actually pretty decent. It was good.
right.
Awesome.
Big thing
Well,
about it
that's
is
great.
we have the original content. We have the original content. So what we're going to do is once everything is completed, then have the same post people that's doing season 2 to take the original content and redo season 1 again.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that way it does not step on toes or leave anything. It'll no content of season 1 original, and then let that uh, post team that's going to do season 2 take it. That way, season 1 is transition perfectly into season 2, and those people can follow it.
Gotcha. Yeah, sounds good to me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then, Eric, I wanted to ask you, just kind of as a closing piece here, what other production pieces you have that are coming up? If you wanted to give us a super high level of, Born, and then the pieces that you have coming after that we've already agreed to.
Yeah. Obviously we're doing Cold first, and then we're going to do Born to Be Wasted, which is we've already touched on. It's an awareness film, so don't get confused by the title, people. It's not about drugs or alcohol or partying, woohoo. No, but once you see the film itself in completion, then you will see how the name of the film come to play. I'm also working on another one about a super duper alcoholic that goes from the top here and ends up hitting the bottom, losing everything, and ultimately he has to turn to different people, including our higher power, to be able to shake the addiction. But is it too late or is it not? Stay tuned, you'll see. Then I'm working on a romance comedy, which has been kind of slow here lately because of, my work hours. But it I just love comedy. I like laughing, period. But not really the crude humor is kind of funny, but that's not something you're going to see out of me as far as my films or anything like that. You're not going to see that kind of stuff. So I've got some other things in mind, but first things first, I got to finish these other two, and then I'll start jumping on the other ones as quickly as possible.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. That was an exciting preview into things coming up. And, as we get closer and we start production, there'll be a whole lot more of these coming, but just wanted to take the time. And I will put everyone's information links as well in the description. And this will be available on Facebook and also on YouTube. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking the
Nice.
time today. Greatly appreciate it and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Y'all do the same.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Y'all too now. Take care now.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.